While physical and physiographic boundaries, while physical and physiographic boundaries may be convenient, but the idea that they are natural barriers, and hence more stable is a myth. Elaborate and explain and illustrate, elaborate and illustrate with examples. Likho question. While physical and physiographic boundaries may be convenient, but the idea that they are natural barriers and hence more stable is a myth. Elaborate and illustrate with examples. यहां पर दो चैलेंज है. एक तो इसको आपको समझाना है क्या कहना चाह रहा है, and then give examples from across the world. Don't give Indian examples alone. Okay, do not give Indian examples alone. So let's take up one by one. So we're talking about physical boundaries or boundaries based on physical features. So boundaries based on physical features. Okay? Number one is mountains. Advantage and what are the problems? Are mountains stable? Are mountains stable? Yes or no? Yes, they are stable. Okay, you can't move mountains. Are mountains, okay, identifiable? Yes or no? Yes. So there is no ambiguity in identifying mountains. But our problem is that mountains are not absolute barriers. ये myth है. Okay. Can you give examples of mountains are not absolute barriers? बताओ. Mountains are not absolute barriers. There are passes. The crest line is not always distinct. Okay? Mountains, mountain crest. Mountains don't always act as water divide, and mountains don't always differentiate ethnicities. Can we say this? Yes? Okay. ना erosion तो बहुत बाद में आएगा. Absolutely. And technology has allowed to cross mountains easily. So mountains as barriers is the myth, because there are passes people can cross across. The crest line is difficult to demarcate. This has happened for Himalayas. This has also happened for Andes. Andes separating Chile from Argentina. Okay. Chile from Argentina. Asan nahi hai. They don't always act as water divide, correct? Look at your antecedent drainage. They don't separate the rivers. So barriers nahi hai. They don't differentiate ethnicities. The same ethnicity. Okay. So we can have racial commonalities. We can also have a linguistic commonalities. Tibet is a good example. They don't always separate. Yes, Myanmar may be example hai, correct? We also have examples in Myanmar, correct? So now see, most of you would not know to write down this list. आप बस एक सेंटेंस में लेके आ जाते. Okay. So there are racial commonalities. We have got mountains here. The races who live here are also present here. They move across mountains. They move across mountains. The problem in this question is, आपको समझ में तो आ रहा है, but the elaboration required may not be correct. And technology, okay, and the consequence of which is there have been conflicts. I think India-China conflicts. This is the best example of how mountains are not the best barriers. In fact, racial similarities are also in Arunachal Pradesh. That's why McMahon line is disputed. McMahon line is challenged by China. They call Arunachal Pradesh Little Tibet. So this is one. So this is around mountains as boundaries. And what do we mean by they are not reliable? They are not actually barriers. The second one. Talk about the rivers. अब आप बताओ, are rivers distinct or not? Are rivers distinct or not? Yes or no? Yes, they are distinct. You have got no problem in knowing. In fact, rivers are fairly straight and linear compared to mountains. Can I say rivers are relatively more straight and linear? Yes or no? Compared to mountains, are they relatively more linear and straight? Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Okay. Now, as barriers, they are no longer true. Pehle kabhi they may have been barriers. Okay, they may have been if they are very, very large rivers. But in today's circumstances, they are no longer barriers. In fact, the drainage basin is an integrated unit. अगर river यहाँ चल रहा है, more than the river separating this from this area, actually we have integration of this with this. You all agree? Rivers are not barriers. Rivers are actually integrating units. Okay. They tend to bring people together. The people who live here and the people who live here, they are fairly similar. Okay, नदिया के उस पार और नदिया के इस पार, okay, ससुराल होते हैं, ठीक है? तो इधर खेती करके उधर आपका मंडी है, इधर आपका बचपन है, इधर आपका ससुराल है. ये तो इंटीग्रेटिंग हुआ, ठीक है? यहां हमारा गांव है, यहां हमारी कर्म है ना? यहां बैठ के पत्थर मार रहे थे, उधर से पत्थर मार रहे थे, एंड लो बी होल्ड, ओके, अब दोनों मिलके दूसरों को पत्थर मारो. पत्थर टकरा गए. So drainage basins and rivers are actually integrating units. They integrate, they combine. Acha. Then as navigation systems, they again unite. Can we say this? Rivers as navigation units, they again unite. So as navigation systems, they unite rather than they being basis of separation. Okay. Uske ilawa other problems related to shifting river courses, problems related to change in hydrology, change in quantum of water, and these can create conflicts. So again, they are not absolute barriers. Example iska, okay, Rio Grande. This has been the basis of conflicts. Rio Grande. We have had conflicts because of River Amur. Okay. There are conflicts because of River Zambezi. Zambezi does form. Okay. There are conflicts because of River Mekong. So fertile plains hai. Or India mein, you have conflicts between India, Bangladesh, India, Nepal. So rivers are also not reliable. Or kya bacha hamara physical units? What all physical units are you left with? We talk about forests. We can talk about marshes. We can talk about deserts. Now, unlike rivers, forests, marshes, and deserts, these have been frontiers because ye broad zones hai. Okay, the problem we have for rivers, you can also apply the same for the lakes. Yahan par rivers and lakes ko ek saath likh dena. Come to this one. The third categories of physical boundaries are forests, marshes, and deserts. Now, these are frontier zones. And okay, with communication, with changing climates, with discovery of resources, with increasing territoriality, where we want to assert our territory more and more. Okay, with communication, with changing climate, okay, with discovery of new resources, with increasing territoriality, okay, these have become the reasons for conflicts. They have become the reasons for conflicts. So frontiers may have been relevant earlier, but not anymore. Increasing territoriality, Yes, the frontiers convert into forward marches, and the forward marches now become boundaries. Means that you are asserting your territory. More and more you declare, this is my area, that is your area. This is my territory, this is your territory. With increasing territoriality means the increasing assertiveness of your land ownership. Absolutely. Increasing population also. Yes. Increasing resources, increasing population. Okay. So frontiers are no longer the basis of stable barriers. Absolutely. And fourth आप add कर देना the territorial waters. These also are questionable until we had the UNCLOS. Yes, you can add swamps here also, marshes and swamps. Example dena, desert example is Sahara. Forest example, Ardennes, France, Germany area. Marshes mein, you can talk about Pripyat marshes between Poland and Russia, Pripyat marshes. We have our Kutch, run of Kutch. And these are areas of disputes. Sir Creek, yes. Panatal, absolutely, Paraguay ka boundary hai. Panatal wetlands, yes. Yes, yes, Ardennes forest, part of that region, correct. Okay? See, what the problem with this question was, when you see the question, okay, the question does not look to be difficult. Okay, आप देख के हाँ यार हो जाएगा, but जब लिखने बैठोगे, you will have a challenge. You will not know how to break up the answer, and that's what I helped you do. पहले mountains के बारे में लिखो, that they are no longer absolute barriers. Then take up the rivers, they are not barriers. Give examples. Take up forest, marshes, they also are not barriers. ठीक है? So how do we conclude here? यहाँ पर conclusion क्या होगा? Anybody? How will the conclusion be? How will the conclusion be? The conclusion is the most stable ones are the anthropogenic boundaries that are carved because of treaties. Okay, the boundaries that are based on treaty, that are based on certain historical agreements, or the antecedent ones. These are the most stable ones. Okay? So these are relatively more stable than the physical ones. That's your conclusion.